and bring it down an octave, and I get... In other words, the original idea was a literal restatement of the opening theme. The new idea on page 10 is an intensified alteration of it rhythmically and rearranging a couple of pitches in octaves, and the consequence is the transition theme is directly derived from the first theme. If I quote may not sound like it to the naive ear, but as the ear becomes more sophisticated, that will be heard, and it is in the final version, in a very sophisticated form. That's certainly to be found. I'll leave that then where it is for now. There are essentially two ways of construing the kind of material that Beethoven's sketches present. One is what I'll call a progressive evolutionary interpretation, by which we follow the steps from which the composition grew from ducklings to swan, from adolescent to adult. This way of seeing was summed up by Stephen Spender in a famous essay. Quote, some poets write immediately works which, when they are written, scarcely need revision. Others write their poems by stages, feeling their way from rough draft to rough draft, until finally, after many revisions, they have produced a result which may seem to have very little connection with their early sketches. End quote. By the way, Spender is referring specifically to Mozart and Beethoven in this contrast of the people who don't need to sketch and the people that need to sketch a lot and go progressively from stage to stage. I call that the evolutionary view. Another viewpoint which I prefer takes a different form. It is the idea of the composer working with what I'll call a basic conceptual image of the work or movement, though at the early stage it is only an approximation, an en route. This image probably has a few basic elements or invariants that form a basic point of departure for the larger whole. What could it be like? Beethoven liked to tell his friends that he often composed with a picture in his mind, I do, an image. Such testimony led some later commentators to go on a massive hunt for pictorial and fictional imagery that might have been the background for many of his works. A major contributor, or possibly a criminal here, was the German scholar Arnold Schering, who found literary analogs to every one of Beethoven's symphonies, all themed up by Schering, based on what he believes he heard in the works. I think the conceptual image was normally a musical idea, what Roger Sessions called a musical gesture, that remained a basic invariant against which he could build up various kinds of successive elaborations with different kinds of results. This model proposes that there was a dynamic relationship between fixed and variable aspects of the material, and that it was only as the work approached realization that he could discover what elements of his basic idea he could capitalize on and which ones he needed to minimize or dispose. There are a number of invariants packed into the very first draft that we see here. For example, the key, E flat major, the meter, E3/4 time, obviously the tempo also by implication, but he never would write that into a sketch. Manifestly also the shape of the theme itself. The theme is the idea. This is a thematic composer. And by the way, self-willingly, a very melodic composer, as he claimed all his life, though the world has not accepted that adequately. There's much evidence of that to be presented in various places. So, I'm going to leave the details now and just go to the conclusion, because I must quickly finish. The two viewpoints, the evolutionary and the invariant variant, are not incompatible. They represent different ways of grasping the congeries of changes that Beethoven brings to his material, different ways of interpreting his process of building up a structure that is strong enough to realize the implications of his original image, and interesting enough to deviate from it, yet carry it forward. As we consider this viewpoint, we realize that we come to the border of a very important issue far beyond this work and even the field. It is the question of identity and change, a problem that has massive resonance in philosophy and in many, many other fields of inquiry. We can also find this issue packed into many aspects of artistic creation, and beyond that, use it as a basic metaphor by which we can relate the study of the sketch process in Beethoven to wider intellectual, and I would say musicological concerns. Years ago, I was very happy to discover that the mathematical physicist Hermann Weyl, who I believe was here at the Institute, in his philosophy of mathematics and the natural sciences, grappled with this question. And in the chapter heading, he quoted the famous monologue of Der Rosenkavalier, in which the Marschallin, as an older woman, looks at herself in a mirror. Here's part of what she has to say as she remembers herself as a young girl. Quote, where is she now? Yes, sleepless nose of yesteryear. But how can it really be that I was once the little Raisy, and that I will one day become an old woman? How can it happen? How does the dear Lord do it, so that I always remain the same? And if he has to do it like this, then why does he let me watch it happen with such clear vision? Why doesn't he hide it from me? It is all a mystery, so deep a mystery, and one is here to endure it. And in the how, there lies the whole difference. In den Wie, dort liegt der ganze Unterschied. That thoughts like this from the mind of the writer of these lines, Wolfgang Hofmannsthal, if not that of the composer Richard Strauss, emerges from a letter that Hofmannsthal wrote to Strauss in 1911. Quote, that which is essentially poetic in a poet's work, its real meaning, is never understood at first. The higher the essential elements remain unrecognized, and to this there is no exception. Imagine, he says, that Wagner's Lohengrin and Tannhäuser, quote, which were not understood at first by the critics and the public. And my simple libretto of Der Rosenkavalier, was that understood, even by the critics? It only needs understanding to find the charm of it, but the critics had never found it, end quote. All this seems far away at first from the Eroica Symphony, from any Beethoven movement, in aesthetic feeling, and even conceptual status. But if we think of the inner narrative structure of such a work, as the first movement of the symphony, under the heading of identity and change, I was thinking once of calling this the portrait of the motive as a young girl. If we think of it that way, the analogy works its way into our consciousness more strongly than we might at first suspect. In such a work of music, the conceptual image is the starting point for what emerges as a massive, highly articulated artistic experience that unfolds in time. The element of time and change is precisely that on which the Marschallin is brooding. How can the image remain itself through time and transformation? There's no doubt that it does, but it is vital to our understanding of the process of the work that we perceive both dimensions. This brings us to an awareness of some of the ways in which the compositional genesis of an artwork connects with and bears on the structure of its final form. It also suggests some of the ways in which artistic experience connects with life experience, just as we all know fully and intuitively that it does. To engage such questions is only one of the intellectual pleasures to which study of the sketches of great artists can lead us. Thank you.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasant responsibility to issue you a very warm welcome, which I gladly do, and I suspect also the service of all guys with the public project system. Can you all hear what I'm saying in the back there? Good. Well, as I say, I'm delighted to welcome you here, and not entirely certain in what capacity I do so. On a formal level, I suppose, in loco directoris, our director, Professor Griffiths, couldn't be here, or he certainly wouldn't be welcoming you himself in the name of the Institute for Advanced Studies. As executive officer of the School of Historical Studies, I can welcome you in the name of my colleagues, including Irving Hayden, in the School of Historical Studies. Less formally, I am an old friend and colleague of both Irving here in Princeton and Macmillan in Washington through my days at Belmont Notes. I'm also, which perhaps not everybody knows, I'm the son of an art historian, but at one time wanted to be an art historian myself, so I feel some connection with those aspects of the conference. They're not all, I'm not a would-be mathematician, I can tell you that. Also, I'm a distant kinsman of the painter John Constable, who indeed was a celebrated man for the sketch.